Hi everyone, we're here at the Perform Better Functional Training Summit 2017. It's the 10th summit that we have been hosting. I am here with Steve Maxwell. He's been lecturing here at the summit, and we'll give you a little quick interview. Steve has been traveling the world for how many years now, Steve?
Oh,
Like
since
when,
2007, I believe I started my journeys.
that's when you finally just reduced all your belongings to one backpack or suitcase?
I got it down to 12.7 kilos.
Nice, nice.
And that's my life's possessions.
Yes.
I'm a minimalist.
Very nice. Okay, so we'll find out what's going on in the world. What are the, I don't want to say what's hot because we don't really believe into trends. What's actually happening in the world, and also get a bit in the detail of what you're doing, what you're teaching. Steve, we spoke about your age. Steve is 64 years old, and if you guys search a little bit in the internet, he is performing like a 25-year-old, or maybe even stronger than most 25-year-olds which live a sedentary lifestyle. Steve is the complete opposite. So, Steve, how do you answer the question if somebody asks you, what do you do? You're a minimalist? You're an educator? That already we know. What else?
I'm just a little Petey from down the street. I just live my life. And if people are attracted to what I have to say and what I do, great. But I guess I'm all of those things. I wear three hats.
Mm-hmm.
I teach seminars in both Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, Gracie Jiu-Jitsu,
Yes.
and fitness, anti-aging, these type of things.
Mm-hmm.
I do online personal training. I have customers that I have email contact with. I do programming, design, dive programs, things like this.
Mm-hmm.
And I sell downloadable videotapes, just
Okay.
like the one we made that
Yes,
time.
yes.
The super slow
Yeah.
chin-ups. You
Right,
remember
right.
that?
Yes, the
Yeah.
30-30
Yeah.
workout. I do remember.
Your arms are still probably hurting from that.
That
That was
tough.
hard.
That was tough.
Yeah, so this is how I make my living. And then I just basically live in hotels and Airbnbs all over the world and just travel from place to place. So, it pays to travel light. So you don't need a lot of stuff. And it's the way I approach my training as well. I've been around for a long time. I've been training for more than 54 years. So I've cut out all the non-essential and I've gotten it down to the essential. I see what works, what doesn't work. Of course, it does vary from person to person. But there's a lot of nonsense out there, just, stuff that just doesn't work. And I've gotten rid of all of those things. And now I've got it down to the things that not only work, but the things I really enjoy and like as well. That's an important
A minimalist in personal lifestyle and a minimalist in training.
in training.
In that case.
Keep
Right
it
on.
simple.
Sure. Your workshop was called Crawl Like a Baby, Walk Like a Man. Can you elaborate on that? What does that mean? What were you doing?
Well, a lot of people, specifically in the United States, but now it's happening in Europe, the UK, Australia, are really struggling with obesity, overweight, lost movement patterns, poor posture, and the health suffers a lot. So I kind of made it my mission to be an example of what could be. I don't want to be like the normal guy. So, I take a lot of effort to keep myself healthy and fit and strong. And it takes discipline and austerity. But it's not like I'm suffering. And that's my mission, to go out and show people that, yes, you can stay fit into advanced age. And if you are unfit, how to get back to where you were. And this workshop plays directly into that. What I found was by mimicking the movements that you had in childhood, you can regain lost movement patterns. How do we lose it? Well, most people just don't do it. Your brain is so efficient that anything that you don't practice on a regular basis, you literally lose the ability to do it. So simple things for many older people, like getting up and down off the ground. When you're 20 or 30 or even your 40s, you don't think too much about it. But man, you get people 55, 60, 70, they really literally can't get up and down off the floor. It's a struggle.
Yeah.
Anything other than sitting. Climbing a steep flight of stairs for many people is really, really difficult. Lifting up their grandchildren is, they oftentimes hurt themselves.
Yes.
It doesn't have to be that way. And I'm proof. I'm nothing genetically special. If anything, I struggled my entire athletic career because I wasn't gifted. I had to just a lot of hard work basically to get anywhere, but I never stopped. And see, that's where people go wrong. A lot of people stop when they start getting near their late 40s, early 50s. They get too tied up in making money. The materialism, all prevalent in Western society. Yeah. People are interested in getting more and more things and working harder and harder, making more money, and they forget about their health. Yes. And you can't enjoy the fruits of your labors unless you do have health. So it's also part of the message.
Sure. Nice. I've asked around a few of the participants what kind of questions they would like me to ask you. I think one good question at this moment, they were saying, how old does Steve Maxwell actually feel?
How old?
How old do you feel?
Do I feel? I feel like a kid, man. I feel like sometimes I forget I'm not like 16 or 17 years old. I mean, there are physical realities,
Sure.
As I heard someone say, no one gets out of here alive. I mean, there is this, we're all going to get old. We're all going to die. There's no denying that.
Sure.
But you can slow that process down. And it doesn't have to be like this very gradual decline to the point where you struggle just to do normal things. The way I like to go is there will be a decline, but then there's going to be a sharp fall off. Yeah. And I'll just not wake up one morning and Steve Maxwell won't be here anymore. What I don't want to do, what I want to avoid, like some of my elderly relatives, I don't want to suffer for 20 or 30 years with crippling pain and disease and sickness and immobility, I mean, for sure. I may not extend my lifespan, but what I'm looking for is to improve the quality of the years that I have on this earth. So whether it be 70, 75, 80, or 100, I don't know. No one knows. But the quality of those years is what's important. And the way I improve the quality is I'm very austere and I'm very disciplined. And I do a lot of the things I teach in my seminars. I was just out in the woods the other day along the beautiful Isar River here in Munich, running and crawling. And it was fantastic. It's a very enjoyable way to live your lifestyle.
Yes. I've came across the crawling through a seminar that you taught for us at Lake Constance. I believe it was 2014. So I've been crawling ever since. Also used it with my clients. Amazing results. Now, has anything changed in your approach and how you're teaching it? Is there anything new in the last 3 years?
I actually went to China where crawling is almost like a cult-like following in a certain sector. And I learned the 5 animal gong system from a very old guy, almost 80 years old, that moves like a child. And this guy rehabilitated himself from a serious illness through crawling. And he teaches it now. He was a Kung Fu guy and Qigong master, but that wasn't working. So he started adding the crawling and he just turned his health around. So I studied that 5 animal gong system. There are movements that we all did in our infancy of the way we lifted our head, the way we turned over, the way we creeped, the way we crawled on our hands and knees. That's all you need. You just need to retrace those lost movements, regain those lost movements, and you'll find that your overall mobility and your health and your ability to do things just instantly improves. It's not magic, really, but it does work, and I've seen it over and over and over again. I've seen enough empirical evidence. I don't need to see a double-blind study.
Sure.
Because I've seen it in myself, and I've seen it in other people, and you as a professional have seen it with your clients.
Sure. Till Zukov just told me that you've been teaching the same seminar, or not the same seminar, sorry, same name, same label, 4 years in a row, and because of your travels, it was always different content because you bring so much from all over the world. Now you said you're in China. You told me before you've been spending a lot of time in Russia now with martial arts. What do you think is going to bring the near future? What hasn't? I don't know how much idea you have about really the German market in specific, but what you don't see here maybe at the event, what you've seen outside the country, outside the continent maybe.
Well, I do get around quite a bit.
Yes.
I do see a lot of kind of fads and some crazy stuff. See, to me, proper exercise should prevent injuries. And what I'm seeing now is a lot of people getting hurt because a good exercise system will increase your strength and endurance, improve your mobility, increase cardiorespiratory function, and definitely improve mobility and flexibility. The two go hand in hand. But what it won't do is it won't cause an injury. So I'm seeing a lot of people getting hurt, and that's a shame because there's a very small percentage of the world that actually trains. I think in the U.S. population, somewhere I've heard between 11 and 14%, maybe a little higher in Europe, but it's really not that many people actually training or doing anything. True. Most people are sedentary in this modern world. So if they're going to fitness professionals and getting injured, this is a terrible thing. This is a real shame. It should not happen. So I'm seeing a lot of fitness trends where that is a very real possibility. So I believe a trainer should take an oath very similar to a doctor and do no harm. You don't want to harm people. And it all starts with basic movement patterns, basic breathing. Now, if you play tough boy sports, you get on the mat, you do Russian martial arts, you roll around, do crazy jiu-jitsu, of course you run the risk of injury. Of course you're probably going to pull a muscle or get hurt at some point. You don't play this type of sports without assuming responsibility. But training should not cause injury. That's a big mistake that a lot of people make.
Got it. Okay. So instead of a new trend, rather reducing it to those training methods that don't bring a high risk to injury.
That build injury resistance.
Okay. Yeah.
And that always is going to come back to your basic strength training, or general strength training, I call it, and basic human movement patterns and posture work. That's going to prevent injuries. But pretty much anything else you throw on top of there, there's always the risk. I'm not saying that people shouldn't play sport. I'm not saying people shouldn't enjoy their recreational activities, but they need to go in with open eyes and understand the risk. Because I do believe there's a huge confusion between exercise versus recreation. Many of the activities that people do, like sport, like tennis, we're at a tennis club, or soccer, or, grappling, or MMA, or running, or cycling. I was in the forest, and man, there were so many guys riding mountain bikes. It seems very popular here in Germany. These are recreations. They have exercise benefit, but they don't meet the 5-point definition of exercise. And you need to back up your recreation with proper training. So it doesn't matter who you are, what kind of athlete. Tennis does not replace general strength training. They need to do it at least a couple times a week, for sure. And if they sit a lot, they also need to add movement patterns into the mix as well. Because just playing a sport is not enough. Playing golf is not enough. Tennis is not enough. If anything, the sports will get you hurt. Use some muscles and not use other muscles, create imbalances, and eventually you're going to get injured. So that's the way I see it.
You've been lecturing for a long time about breathing. At this event, Dr. Kelly Starrett and a few other educators have been talking about breathing, and they named it. It's a hot topic at the moment. Definitely not a trend. We need to breathe to live. We've been talking about upper-low breathing. Most people that don't move, they just breathe in that system.
The upper chest.
Yes. What I will quickly explain. Kelly Starrett just tried to reestablish at least 90% of capacity by first breathing in the stomach, the chest, the rib cage, the lower back, diaphragm, and then he put people in a few positions in like a deep squat, overhead squat, and said, now do the same thing. And it was a bit of an eye-opener for many. They couldn't establish the same amount, the same volume of breath in this position. He said, just train this, try to get your athlete to breathe properly. We've seen many videos of you doing very unusual breathing techniques. Can you share maybe a few that you came across?
My entire athletic life, we never learned breathing technique. It's interesting because I was a master athlete, and at one point pretty high level wrestler and jiu-jitsu guy, but I didn't know how to breathe. I wish someone would have taught me. And I went to Russia and had my eyes open and summoned the breath masters. And what really started getting me thinking about this was the Russian martial art called the system or sistema. The whole martial art is based on breathing. So then I started investigating more, and I found a Russian breathing system called the Butyeko system. And I became an avid follower of the system. Butyeko. And there's Butyeko practitioners pretty much all over the world now. And it was an eye-opener for me. And a couple books that I had read. One was by a guy by the name of John Duyard, who was an American physician and chiropractor and practiced Ayurveda, which is the first medical system. He was huge on nasal-only breathing. That's the first time I'd heard this. One of my jiu-jitsu masters, the great Rickson Gracie, had a very peculiar way of breathing when he would train on the mat. And that was an eye-opener. I thought, well, what is it he's doing? He wasn't teaching it, by the way. Now he does. Okay. He's going around teaching the breathing for jiu-jitsu and martial arts. But the systema really opened my eyes. And then I started looking more and more. And I realized, wow, people really are breathing very dysfunctionally. The grunting, the when in the gym, that Valsalva sink, extremely harmful, creating a lot of stress hormones, upper chest breathing, fight or flight all the time, 100% of the time.
Yes.
Even office workers, you have your panic receptors in the upper chest, and they're just always in a chronic state of upset and panic and fear. And learning to bring the air down into the lower lobes of the lung, you get better oxygenation. A lot of people also overbreathe. They breathe too much, too often through the mouth. Big mistake. People think that if you breathe more, you get more oxygen, or you take bigger breaths into the chest. No, you actually breathe out too much CO2. So you need CO2 in order to exchange the oxygen at the cellular level. So if you're overbreathing, you're breathing out all your carbon dioxide. Now you don't even get the oxygen in your cells because there's not enough CO2. So there's a lot of misconceptions about breathing. And I teach a great breathing course. In fact, perform better, you should have me teach one next year because it's really good. And some of the exercises that I do involve voluntary breath holding.
We're happy to invite you back.
Yeah. I mentioned that when you're training, like people, it's kind of a panic mode. Yeah. It's called panic breathing. They'll start to gulp, gasp, and then they start to lose the technique.
It should never happen.
Yeah, they should never happen. Your last rep should look exactly like your first rep. Even if your muscles are completely paralyzed, the last rep should be perfect technique, perfect form. But if you're breathing just functionally, that can't happen. And the problem with this involuntary breath holding, it spikes all the negative stress hormones. It creates panic. You can't think. You lose your motor control. You lose your reasoning. But you can learn to stay calm, even in an emergency, by learning to breathe into the lower diaphragm. Even when you're exercising hard, you can learn to do it. And one of the ways you can do that is voluntary breath hold. It's much different than involuntary. Voluntary breath holding builds, it's called hypoxic training. It lessens your CO2 sensitivity. What prompts you to breathe is a buildup of CO2 in your blood. But people that overbreathe chronically, their sensors are too sensitive, and they're breathing all the time. So by decreasing your CO2 sensitivity, you lessen your need for breathing all the time. And you can slow your breathing down. Like some yoga masters will breathe 3 or 4 times a minute.
Is that what I think the method of Wim Hof is spreading a little bit, what he's doing?
He's actually using panic breathing as a way to adrenalize yourself so that you can withstand the cold water. A completely different system.
Okay.
I'm trying to calm you down. He's trying to get you jacked up on adrenaline. All right? It works for cold water, but no, I never said it was healthy.
But don't you alkaline the body through that?
Through the hypoxic training.
Yeah.
Right. You learn to tolerate more CO2, so the blood becomes more alkaline. Okay. Your body will only tolerate a very small change of pH, by the way. or you die.
Yes.
Your liver and kidneys are amazing at keeping things on an even keel. But proper breathing can really help that process and take the load off your liver.
From knowing you a little bit, would you agree that you specialized in jiu-jitsu and ground fighting for a period in your life?
Pretty much from a very early age. I tried with American sports, baseball, still little for football. Guys are too big. I did play, but got crushed half the time. I didn't enjoy it, actually. And they had really bad head protection helmets.
Yes.
Oh, man. I used to get my bell rung. You know that saying, bell rung? Yeah. Oh, I'd have headaches. I really didn't like it. I only played it because my dad made me play it.
Okay.
You know?
I see.
And it just wasn't fast enough, or and it was too small. And then I tried track and field. Not enough endurance to be a good distance runner. Not enough speed to be a sprinter. I tried throwing a javelin. Too small. Not enough leverage. We didn't have gymnastics. Soccer didn't exist. Didn't have good motor skills for basketball. Man, when I went out for wrestling in 7th grade, boom, like I was 12 years old.
You found a sport.
I had instant success. And nothing breeds enthusiasm like success. And I found that I was actually had a knack for wrestling because it's such a combination. I didn't have any one attribute that was great, but it was kind of good attributes, and that's what wrestling requires. So you need a little bit of everything.
Since you said age 15?
12 years old.
12 years old.
Yeah.
So all that time, that's 52 years now, correct?
Yes.
How do you manage at your age now? I'm sure that many listeners, coaches have a clientele which is at a bit of an advanced age, if I may say that. How do you handle the compromise that your body had through that specialization, that sport, which is inevitable?
After wrestling ended, I did discover the Gracie brothers and Gracie Jiu-Jitsu, which is a whole different ballgame. There, wrestling is 50% technique, 50% power, strength, and athleticism. Jiu-Jitsu is 90% technique, 10% strength and power. So you don't necessarily have to be extremely athletic or even strong to play the game. Obviously, two guys of equal strength, the guy with the most skill is going to always win. Or you could say it the other way, two guys with equal skill, the stronger guy will always win. But skill can negate strength to a great degree. And what I've done is, as I've gotten older, especially when I play jiu-jitsu, I'm very careful with my training partners. I make sure they're very technically proficient. One of the concessions I've made is I don't wrestle with super heavy guys anymore. I was still wrestling with guys well over 100 kilos right up until about 10 years ago. Then I stopped. Just too easy to get hurt. They don't even mean to do it. They just roll the wrong way, twist your leg or whatever. And I can't afford to be hurt. So now I'll wrestle with really technically proficient guys, usually higher black belts.
Yes.
Or guys that are smaller and weaker. Smaller, weaker, less skilled. They're fun to train with.
Okay.
And I just play. Or guys that are maybe even way better than me, but they know how to bring the game down and just have a fun chess match and match me move for move instead of power for power. And that way you can continue even into late age playing the game.
Okay.
And I'm very smart. If anything hurts at all, no ego, I just tap immediately. When you're young, you don't want to tap. Now, believe me, if anything even feels remotely close to being a problem, I just say, okay, you got me.
It's the opposite.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
You start to get really smart with that game. And so I can still get in the mat and have fun. But I do go for weeks and even months, sometimes not being able to get in the mat. But my conditioning system and my mobility makes the transition back to the mat quite easy. Because like tomorrow, the seminar I'm going to teach, the mobility conditioning, wow. If I, as long as I keep those moves like really crisp, my timing and precision might be a little off, but within a week or two, I'm just right back to rolling again. So
great. For all the listeners who are coaches or training themselves, what path would you recommend them? What kind of education line should they follow in order to maintain a healthy lifestyle for healthy aging? I'm just missing the right vocabulary here in English, but I think
I think you made your point. Well, first of all, come to all my seminars.
Of course. That's what we're doing the interview.
But the other thing too is I always believed that when you're looking for a good anti-aging health system, you don't go to a guy that's 20, 30, or 40. They're just making too many mistakes. I did the same thing, you know? When you're, you tend to look at the big bodybuilders and the super strong guys. What I found, you probably should do just the opposite of those guys, actually, because most of those guys don't last. I went to university and wrestled with some unbelievable athletes. You should see those guys now. Double hip replacements, knee surgery, fat, obese, crippled, in chronic pain all the time because the training systems were unsustainable. One of the things that I've done is I've studied the training systems of guys that were 70, 80, 90 years old. I've had many of my mentors were elderly men, and I've looked at what were they saying, what were they doing, what were they promoting, and I've adapted that into my own system. And I want to be a good example of what it is that I'm promoting. And I'm telling you young guys out there, start to look for older mentors. Forget about all these in the hood workouts and calisthenic park show off stuff. It's cool when you're 20, but it's a great way to completely destroy your wrists, elbows, shoulders, knees, spine. And by the time you're 40, you're so busted up you can't do anything. I'm not saying don't have fun. I'm not saying, don't take a few risks in your life, but don't base your training on that. Look at the guys that have made it through to the other side, listen to what they're saying, and start to replicate and duplicate what they're saying. And forget all of these young stars doing all their crazy...
One-arm push-up, handstand.
Crazy movement stuff, Cool when you're young. But I guarantee, even those guys aren't going to be doing it in 10 years. And many of them may be so injured, they won't be able to do anything at all. So you got to be really careful with that.
All right.
That's another message.
Thank you for the insight about your work. Now, to get to know you as a person, I would like to ask you a few rapid-fire questions, if you don't mind. Do you have a morning routine?
Do I have a what?
Morning routine.
Oh, I sure do, man. Every morning.
What is it
Same
like?
thing. It's a lot of Qigong and Ayurvedic, the head massage, pressure points, ear tapping, called drums of heaven, eye massage, eye yoga exercises. I don't want to lose my sight. Massage the thyroid. I do the hungry lion, stick the tongue turning for digestion, because digestion starts in the mouth with the salivary glands. Throat massage. I do tapping, various tracing meridian points. I do stomach shiatsu. I do an exercise called the deer exercise for virility. I can explain it sometime.
I was just going to say, I want to take a seminar about your morning routine.
Yeah.
Please, let's offer that.
And then I'll get up, I'll do the tongue scraping, mouth swishing with oil for 20 minutes for teeth and gum, oil pulling, a Swedish dry brush massage. The Germans make the best brushes, by the way.
Thank you.
I got to go find one, actually. Mine's wearing out. Good brush. It's brush the skin. The skin's the largest organ in the body. Very important to keep it healthy. So you want to brush the skin regularly. I take the cold water, not quite like Wim Hof. It's unnecessary to expose yourself for such a long time. But, a nice cold shower with vigorous rub down. I do the Tibetan rites. I do the Russian Slavic mobility health system. Some form of it.
Right on.
Walk every single day, at least 10,000 steps. And I push breakfast back. I'm not a breakfast person. I like to do early morning fasting. I think it really helps your body clean out the metabolic waste from the night before. So I try to push the breakfast back as far as I can. Sometimes when I'm traveling, I'll have a breakfast, especially if I get up like 4 or 5 in the morning. I might have one, but usually I'll get up between 5 and 6. And I won't eat till like 11 or 12 o'clock. And then I'll have a second meal about an hour, actually. Usually about 4 or 5.
4 or 5, okay.
And then maybe I'll have a little fruit before bed, like some cherries. The German cherries are in season, man. It's so good. I've been having a nice bowl of cherries. Told my girlfriend the other night, says, life really is a bowl of cherries. When you're living the good life.
We have great quality of veggies and fruits here.
So awesome, man.
I'm
so glad you chased Monsanto Foods out of here, man. I'm so happy.
We did that, actually.
Yes, you did, man. So
Right
I've
on.
got to hand it to the German people for this. You guys stood up to the big agribusiness. I wish more places would do the same thing.
In the favor of local, I assume.
Heck yeah. And it's some of the best produce in the world right here.
All right.
One reason I love coming to this country and visiting. Love Bavaria. Love Berlin too. It's really, really nice.
Go to Viktualienmarkt if you haven't been, right in downtown of Munich. Most amazing produce you will find here. Viktualienmarkt. How long do you plan, if you do, to work as an educator? How much longer?
Till I die. Till I just don't wake up some morning.
I was expecting
someone
that response.
rouses me and says, "Hey Steve," and I'm just gone.
All right.
Just left.
Very nice.
No more Steve Maxwell.
I'm glad to hear that. Nice. I'm looking forward to keep learning from you.
Yeah.
Very nice.
I mean, who wants to retire? I mean, if you like doing what you're doing, you don't retire. If you love it and you're enjoying it, you just do it till you can't do it. And the only thing that's going to keep me from doing it is death. Mm-hmm. You know?
Okay. Which advice would you give your 35-year-old version with the knowledge that you have today?
Everything is not a nail, and you are not the hammer. That was always my philosophy, you know. Go heavy or go home or go hard. No, It doesn't have to be that way. I'm not saying you don't train hard now and again, but not so often. And recovery ability is one of the least understood aspects of training. People are not giving themselves the proper time to recover. Mm-hmm. And of recovery, sleep is more important than diet. I didn't get that. Sleep is way more important. If you're sleep deprived, I don't care what kind of diet you're on, you're not going to be healthy. So get your sleep, get your recovery. Don't smash yourself every time. Give yourself a really hard, high-intensity workout now and again, but give yourself plenty of time in between.
Do you have a hint for everybody traveling so much? How do you set your circadian rhythm since sleep is so important to you?
It can be pretty tough sometimes, but usually the moment I get on the airplane, I get to my seat, I change my watch, change the time on my iPad and my iPhone, and I start thinking in the new time zone. Which means maybe I'll miss a meal, or maybe I get an extra meal. But usually, I'll skip a meal and try to eat exactly when I eat on the new time frame, and I will try to sleep. Like usually I take night flights, and I'll try to sleep while I'm on the plane. Okay. And I'm not shy about flying business class. It's better, especially if I have to work when I get there. I used to fly economy. Whew, man, it's brutal. So as I've gotten older, I pretty much get a lot of points, as you can imagine. So I get a lot of upgrades. Yeah. So I make sure I have a comfortable seat. And then the moment I land, I try to go out and get some walking in. Mm-hmm. I mean, if it would be night or time for bed, but usually we take night flights when we can, and then I'll go out and exercise immediately and try to get in the light to reset the circadian rhythm. And then I try not to nap if I can help it. Mm-hmm. If I have to take a nap, I take a nap. Mm-hmm. No big deal. But usually within 2 or 3 days, boom, right back in the swing of things.
Perfect. Thank you for the insights again. Has been great, Steve. Thank you so much.
Thank you, man. Great seeing you again. I have to get back down to Constance again to see you.
Let's do it. But before we cut off here, where do people find you on the internet? Where can people see you live in seminars? What's coming up in the hope that we will broadcast this podcast before the seminar that you promote?
Well, I'm the worst when it comes to memorizing dates and so forth, but the website is maxwellsc.com. Maxwell, my name, SC, stands for Strength and Conditioning.com. Tons of free information, lots of video downloads. And do you mind if I bring Eileen?
Not at all. Please, Eileen, come in here.
Beautiful Eileen Berlin, ladies and gentlemen.
She set us up here with this appointment, so please.
And she is one of my fantastic representatives here in Germany.
Doing an amazing job.
Yes, she does. And explain to the folks at home where they can find me here in Germany.
Oh, yeah. We have set some seminars with...
You can say it in German if you like. It's mostly German people.
Yeah. Probably. I think Perform Better is getting back with Steve next year. Maybe in 2019 we will do something. And
until then, what's coming up very soon? If people hear this, they want to see Steve. What's going on right now?
We will have
the website, huh?
Yeah, we will have Steve in 2 weeks, and at the a new Valentine's Academy.
Okay.
And so you can see this at the website www.maxwellsc.com at events.
Events page.
There we go. There we go.
And I
We
hope
got it.
Steve will come to Berlin as well someday. Yeah.
And hey, contact the website or Eileen if you're interested in doing any kind of workshop, seminars. I'm more than happy to travel. And so anyone listening out there that would like to host a seminar, just contact the website or Eileen's website, and we will be there.
One quick testimony from my side, obviously, when you go to a workshop or you watch a video, it's such a small portion of what you get in an actual, what do you call it, course. If you do a seminar, proper seminar, a 2-day, 3-day seminar, even 1 day with Steve is a complete different story. When you get a lot more insights and depth, and this man has seen so much. You can never say you've seen it all, but a big part of the cake is right here in this man. So don't miss the opportunity and go. Listen to you soon, I guess, or see you soon, hear you soon. Bye bye.